homesteading to prepping to common horse sense, we are College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, today it's time to harvest 6-week beans. Now, I don't have the dehydrator space enough to harvest a whole 100-foot row of beans, because these 6-week beans, they really put out. Let me pull up one here and show you what I'm talking about. That's a single vine, and they're planted somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 inches apart down through this row. Okay, this single vine is going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 beans. They're heavy producers. Now, I wait until the bean, you can see them good and full in there. All of the protein in a green bean is in the bean. Now, what am I going to do with these? Well, first off, I'm just going to pull them up. Throw them here in the bucket of my tractor. Then, these beans are all destined to become what we call shuck beans, or leather britches beans. We have plenty of beans in the freezer. We have plenty of beans in the cupboard, canned. They're 2 years old, but that's okay. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it don't matter. They hold just fine. 3-year-old beans in the freezer, just fine. Everybody's going to say, oh, they're freezer burnt. No, they're not. They're fine. They're fine, they're fine, they're fine. So, we've got plenty of beans in the freezer. But what we don't have is shuck beans. So what I'm going to get at is I'm going to pull up about 20 feet of this row, or 25. It's a 100-foot row, but once my dehydrator's full, I'll have to string the rest of them. And I'll show you what that means in a minute. But the very first thing I'm going to do is pull this up. Well, my old back doesn't like bending over to pull these things up. Now, I'll pull them up and take them to a chair where I can sit and pick the beans off. But to begin with, I have to pull them up. That means I got to bend over to do it. No, I don't have a no-bend method. I wish to God I could come up with a no-bend method for picking these. And I'm sure that I could probably bring my mowing blade and put a cradle on it and mow these up and throw them in there. That's possible. I just haven't given it much thought because I only do about 25 feet at a time. So I'm going to get these pulled up and in the tractor, and then I'll show you what we do with them. Okay, that's a tractor bucket full, so it's time to go back over here somewhere out of the sun and get these picked off. Now, that was only, if I stepped it off, that's only about 8 steps down through there, so probably somewhere between 16 and 20 feet. And I got a bucket full. So that would be 5 pickings down this row, and I got another row over yonder. But I may let it go to seed. Just depends how many quarts of shuck beans I get out of this row. Alright, let's go pick some. Okay, once you're done picking those, pull them up out of the garden. And this is the only way I recommend anybody does 6-week beans, because they're one of those things that you could get 3 plantings of. I don't know, it's pretty windy out here. I hope it's not in the microphone too bad, but there's something you could get 3 plantings of as the year progresses. So these are probably the ultimate homesteader bean, especially if you want to have a lot of beans to store. Now, let's talk about the bean a minute. Now right here, this bean doesn't have but one full-size bean in it. Now I will put that in the bucket along with the others, and it will get dried along with the others. But the real protein in a shuck bean, or any kind of green bean for that matter, is not in the seed pod, but in the seed. That's why pinto beans have so much protein, and you can exchange out pinto beans for meat. You can exchange out pinto beans for meat. So I'm going to start picking these off. I like the ones that are good and full. I don't want them to be yellow and tough, but I want them to be the right color. Green is okay. That's the color of the bean. It's a nice red bean. So I'm going to get these picked off and put in the bucket, and then I'll show you the next step. Now, that's all the viable beans in one plant. Okay, it's 2 full handfuls. Now, on a 100-foot row, every 3 inches, okay, what is that? 4 plants to the inch, or 4 plants to the foot. So for every foot, I get 8 handfuls of beans. That ain't nothing to sneeze at. These produce heavy, and they'll produce in 8 weeks. This is 8 weeks, okay? 8 weeks in, almost exactly. Another good thing about 6-week beans is that you plant them late in the fall, and I don't see a bug bite on any of these. The bugs don't give you all that pressure like they do the spring beans. You don't get all those bean bugs. These things are a wonder. Okay, I got them all done. This is what I wound up with. Almost a 5-gallon bucket. Now, I figured out that I stepped it off before I came out of the field, and I picked 6 steps worth of beans. That's what it took to fill the bucket of my tractor, 6 steps worth. In other words, I did probably about 15 to 18 feet. Now, I'm only 5'8", so my steps are only probably about 2.5 feet a step. So that's 15 feet. And if I stepped a little bit long once or twice, it's somewhere between 15 and 18 feet. And I got a 5-gallon bucket almost full of beans. At least 4/5 full. So now, what's the next step? Well, the next step is to string these beans. Okay? The first thing you want to do, I've got me another bucket here, and I'm just going to set it here out of the way. And to string these, again, you see I like a nice full bean. I left, you'll see here, I left things on the vine that are just little flabs, or anything that was not, didn't look like it was good. See how that one is? It's all wilted and shriveled. Any old wilty stuff, I just didn't include it, left it out. So there's a lot of this stuff that really, if you were hungry, you could eat that, okay? But I want some nice, good, pretty shuck beans. So I just left that stuff out and just tossed it over here in the pile with the rest of it. So I could have probably got that bucket full. Now, what you want to do is you take a bean and you break that little tip off, and then you can pull a string out. Then on the other side, you break it off and pull a string out. Okay? That's what you're going to do for this next step. All of them. You're going to take the strings off of all of them. Now, let's say you've got a bean and it's got a bug bite on it. This one doesn't have a bug bite, but let's just say for the sake of argument, because I threw a lot of the bug bite ones away. Let's just say for the sake of argument that there was a pretty good bug bite right there. You would just take that bean, string it, and then break it back past where the bug bite was and pull that string off. That's what I do with them. And as I do them, this is the process. Now, some friends of mine said, well, why don't you grow stringless beans? Would make that process a lot quicker. It would if they would be stringless when they're full. I like a good full bean. This is what you get in a stringless bean. It's basically all just flab. There's only the hull. And a stringless bean, and this is not a stringless bean, so me stringing it would just be a waste of showing you. A stringless bean doesn't have a string when it's a flab like that. But when you let that bean develop to where it's got a big seed in it, okay, they're not stringless anymore. They have strings in them. So you're stuck with the same thing, except the strings don't come off easy. Okay? They don't come off simple. So you're having to dig around at it. With these, the string just pulls right off 9 times out of 10, and you're ready to just move on with that bean. Now, my grandmother and mother, the way they did their beans was they strung them and broke them, and then put them out on a sheet and laid them on the top of the car or on the back of the truck or on our well house. We had a well house with a flat roof that had sheet metal on it. So they would lay them out on that sheet, in that sheet metal, in a single layer to let them dry. They would put them out there after the dew burned off in the morning and take them in when the sun went down. So, or when the sun got off of them. Because in Appalachia, the sun goes down way before it gets dark. So, anyway, that was the way they did theirs. Now, me, I don't break my shuck beans, and I'll show you why. Also, we don't wash our shuck beans in this process. Why? Well, look at that bean. That bean is very clean. Okay, we harvest them when they're clean and not dirty. They have a good canopy, so if it rains, they don't get splashed and all nasty. So We harvest them when they're fairly clean. Now, if you harvest your beans, and I let them dry in the field before I go out there. I went out about 2:30 today to harvest these. Okay, I let them dry out there so that there's no dew or nothing going to make them damp. Because what will happen is, if these are wet, when you try and dry them, they'll sour. And they'll make your beans taste funny. You won't like it. I guarantee it. So we dry them without washing them. But when we go to cook them, we wash them 3 or 4 times and soak them. So, okay, so that's the way we do those. Now, I'm going to get at stringing these, and then we'll show you how to use the dehydrator on them. Sometimes they don't string good from this side, so you just reach up here and grab it from the other side and string it back. Now, here's a good example. Here's that bug bite example. String it. Then on this side, I'm going to break it past the bug bite. Okay, that's how you do those. I'm going to go ahead and get these all done up, and then see you over to dehydrator. Okay, folks, let's start getting these dehydrated. Now, it's got a little cold out, so I'm going to go in and finish stringing them. It's just the wind's just biting a little bit, so it's not comfortable to sit out here and string them. But before I do that, I've got enough to put in a dehydrator so we can get the first set started. Now, we store our dehydrators in the basement so that we put them up clean. We store them in a tote, so when we're ready to use them, we can pull them straight out and use them. Now, we use the Presto Dehydro. When you buy it, it comes with 4 trays. Okay, that's all it comes with. We bought enough so that they could have 8 trays, each dehydrator, but we found that when you do 8 trays, some things get dry and some things don't, and you have to take partial out and all that. It's a lot of hassle. So what I'm going to do with this first batch, I'm going to go ahead and just use 4 trays. So you start off with your dehydrator here, and one tray fits on like that. Let me bring you a little closer. Okay, you've got one tray. See how it sits? It fits on like this. Now, the way that's made, the next tray would fit on. Nope. I've got the other trays, must be on the other side. They fit on like that. And then another tray fits on like this. And then another tray turns over, turns upside down and fits on like that. Okay, and then there's a clear cover that goes on top. Now, what have I got done so far? I have about half. I've probably got a gallon of beans ready to go in here, maybe a gallon and a half. So I'm going to go ahead, set these over here, and we'll go ahead and get a 4-tray dehydrator going. So I take that off till I got a single tray. Start loading on the beans. You want them to be in a single layer. If some cross over, they'll be okay. You know, it's not rocket science. I put them in there, and I like to leave plenty of room. But I spread them out. They just dry better. Get them all spread out. And like I say, I put them on here whole. Now, some people are going to want to know why I don't wash the beans again. And again, if you wash these beans, what's going to happen is they'll have dampness on them, and then they'll sour. And the dehydrator won't pull that off quick enough that they wouldn't sour. And it makes the beans taste funny when you do that. So I don't do that. Put that tray on. Take these two off. Okay, now load this one up. And again, crowding them is just a mistake. And as far as washing goes, these beans are going to get washed 2 or 3 times before you ever cook them. Plus, they're going to get soaked overnight. So, they'll have plenty of washing by the time you're ready to cook them. So, probably get a few more in here. Now the next one. Now some of y'all might ask, why am I doing this outside and not in the kitchen? Well, the truth is, we haven't turned our heat on yet, and don't intend to, and for a little while yet. Our house is lath and plaster, so it takes it a long time to cool down, and then it takes it a long time to heat up. So we're not turning on our heat right now because there's still enough latent heat in the house through the day to keep us warm at night. It's only getting down into the 40s. But this would put so much moisture in the air that it would tend to want to make things in the house start molding. And we just don't want to contend with that stuff. So I do them out here. Now the next week is supposed to be 45% relative humidity for this week coming. So we'll have that. So it's going to be low humidity for Appalachia, 45%. And so we'll be able to get most of our beans that we need dried. And it looks like I may get most of these that was on this bucket. I had about a half a bucket, and it's a 2.5 gallon bucket. So I had about a half a bucket of beans ready to go in the dehydrator. Okay, that's pretty much it. Then I just put the lid on and plug it up. Okay, now this is only 180 watts. Okay, I'll scoot that back here. It's just out here on the porch. The dew can't fall on it. It will get warm, but it never gets really hot. So that's what I'm going to do with those. That's how many beans were left in the bucket. Now I'm going to go in. This is going to run all night long. As soon as I get another bucket of these ready, there'll be another dehydrator sitting right here beside it, and it'll run all night long too, and probably into tomorrow. These will take 12 to 14 hours, depending on the weather, how cold it gets tonight, it might take them 15 hours. But the truth is, the cold's not the problem, it's the relative humidity. Okay, as the relative humidity changes over the night, in the morning, the relative humidity will have risen. But by afternoon, the relative humidity is going to be back down in the 40% range again. So these will just keep dehydrating as they go. These should be ready tomorrow. And what I'll do is when these are ready, I'll show you what we do with them. There we go. 2 dehydrators full. And I've got probably half a gallon of beans left. So, but now I went ahead and put the second 2 racks on this one. So this one has 6 racks. This one has 4. I'll show you the difference in the morning. Okay, it's been 15 hours. Oh, those are nice and warm. My hands are cold. It's 40 degrees out here. So it's time to get these off. Here's the real test. Hear how those break. They're completely dry. So now I just take these, dump them in a pan. Dump them in a pan is all I'm doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once I've got that done, I'll load them back up because I've got some left from yesterday. I will keep these going for 2 or 3 days. The 6 drum one did just as good, so I'm going to add 2 more racks to that. Oh, back over here. I'm going to add 2 more racks to it. Let's see which one is that. What's that one? There we go, and that's ready. And now let's take these in and I'll show you what to do with them. Okay, here we are. We've got the beans in a bowl. All we have to do, now the reason I don't break these beans before I put them in the bowl, well, it's real simple. When you break them, they're easy to fall through the little grids in the dehydrator, and it's just as easy and even more easy to just break them like this. They just break right up. I'll finish getting these broke up and show you what we do with them. Okay, we've got our beans done. Just went through and just broke them up, pieces about that big. Okay, so you can get an idea, about like 2, half your finger. This is only 1 4-rack dehydrator. Now, what do we do with these? We just put them in a jar and put them downstairs. in our pantry. These, my grandmother kept hers in jars, or whatever she had. She had a great big old crock that she would put them in when there were no pickles in it. She would put these in them and cover it with saran wrap. But Mom kept these in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. But we just store them in a jar. This is an old spaghetti sauce jar. Don't waste those jars. They're worth a fortune. So when you come up with these jars, don't just throw those in the garbage. You can have new life. This way, we don't have to use our canning jars. But the truth is, a canning jar lid will vacuum seal right on top of that. Anyway, we just take and I don't pack them, but I do try and fill them up. There we go. That's good right there. Put the lid on, and then I'll write the date right on top of here. Now, let's see how much we can get in this jar. Try not to get them all over the house. Alright, got a few on the table here. Okay, that is what four level dehydrator would done. Now, if I had to use all 6, it gives me about 2 of these jars. Now, 2 of these jars is about right for Christmas dinner. 1 jar is about right for me and Crystal. If we wanted to just have shuck beans with a meal, 1 jar is about perfect for 2 meals for me and her. Okay, that's what we do with shuck beans. Be certain to be watching out. Probably in the next little bit, I'll have a cooking video about shuck beans. They're my favorite bean. I prefer these over the canned beans. I prefer anything over canned beans, but I prefer these over canned beans, and I prefer these over fresh or frozen. They are absolutely awesome. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. When you come to the channel, if you'll hit the little bell up here, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload every Sunday. Now, with that being said, it's time for me to go out and pick some more beans.